Welcome to the Dealmaker Show, the number one place for entrepreneurs and dealmakers to learn about leveraging and generating status, frame control, and narrative power to close big deals. Here is your host, investment banker, deal-making expert, and best-selling author of Pitch Anything and Flip the Script, Mr. Oren Klaff.
Okay, you are live. Hey, welcome. I'm Grant Cardone, and I'm here with Lewis Howes on the podcast of Amazing Greatness. Hey, Lewis, how are you today?
I'm good. I was going to go with like LeVar Burton from Reading Rainbow.
Thank you. Hey, LeVar. So obviously I'm Oren Klaff. This is Justin Michaels. And the amazing thing about Justin, to me, is he has unpacked and put back together the AdTech, marketing tech, sales stack, all the APIs that you really need to do outreach today in a way that you can reach your prospects, connect with them. And I think, one thing we have to talk about is how much you're offending people when you're using a full AI, machine learning integrated stack and breaking in, on their dinner with a FaceTime call and trying to convert them in. Because a lot of people would say, hey, look, I understand, right? You're selling car warranties. You're selling, things that are outside the box. You're selling seats on the next space launch with Space Billionaire. You're selling something that's sort of an NFT of a random basketball game with LeBron James on a Wednesday night in a non-critical game. So you're breaking into people's headspace using your tech stack with something that just has this outwardly incredible appeal. And I get having a conversation, but motherfucker, I sell insurance.
Yeah.
And so I need to be credible because I work for a company and we can't just, walk up to somebody's house, virtual house with a virtual baseball bat, bang on the door and say, hey, what's up? Oh, you're having dinner? Sorry. Need to talk to you about whatever I'm selling. So I have an infrastructure above me that needs me to behave in a certain way. Number two, I feel I have a belief system that if I'm breaking through the barriers that people have set up, the defensive barriers, if I'm breaking through them with technology, multiple touches, messages, weird, crazy, unusual messages, that I'm freaking them out and I don't know how to overcome that. So I feel like when people feel like you're using these fancy next generation tools to break through the defensive barriers and shock people into a conversation, how do we have that conversation? Is that sort of the pushback you get, or some of the initial experiences people have when they use a full tech stack to do outreach?
Those are all really great points. It's like all the above. One, when initial reading the book, some of the old guard authors said, you're like John Connor in Skynet. My advice to you is don't release this book, rip it up. It's bad. Yeah. It's like, it could be used for evil. It had almost like an anarchist cookbook feel. It's like you sent a million emails.
When you're on a plane and someone's reading your book, right? But they've taken the cover off.
Exactly. They have the Bible, the Bible around it. They have it. We put a heart and a soul and a conscience in it. It's fun holding these up because I get compared to this guy, or, an iron human. So I can bring everyone to the table, but I also get compared a lot to these folks who weren't so fun. So I have a community called Sales Borgs, which is a seller and a cyborg. The truth is insurance agents can use this tech, but not all of it. There's a lot of dialer tech that allows them to dial the phone faster and frees up their time. So it doesn't matter we're at a point of peak tech stacks. No matter what industry you're in, there's something in my book that would be appropriate. The weaponization of the tech stacks in startup companies, when you really get a blank check and you get to go nuts.
Right.
That's the goal. There is actually almost a Turing test. I want my automation to be so good that you don't know it's automation. That's the artistry and the craft. Most people can't get to that level. It's identifiable and they know they're getting buffeted. It's like, oh, you're banting me, you're sandling me, you're sequencing me. It's like, hey, Oren, I noticed your company grow by 31 people and you just raised $21 million. It's like curly bracket, curly bracket. Sometimes the curly brackets fail and you can see the automation, like the Frankenstein, the wire pops out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's a multifaceted answer. It was a great question.
This is where I think there's the most amount of challenges people have. So by the way, just to put in context, like my world is I Daniel and other people you've met here do the tech stack and the technology. The world I live in is the human psychology of messaging. So when you say, hey, people can see, you know, this is a science fiction book, but people can tell the monster or the machine, right, or the cyborg or the android from a human very easily. That's the world I live in. How do we humanize, no matter what technology that you're using, how does it feel like this is not a robot? So the first thing that I want anybody to see in any messaging at any level that I deliver is I am not a robot. To your point, the way to signal, I think, I am not a robot is to pull something out of their world that you know, a robot wouldn't have enough perceived intelligence to know or pick up on. Right?
You just nailed it. The highest level, which is what I call hyper, because personalization at scale has failed. It's something that was used as a marketing gimmick by LinkedIn. LinkedIn has billions in revenue and 750 million users, and they said just personalize. So we have all this in-mail, and we said, well, Oren, you and I both know Daniel Berger, and you'll be like, yeah, a lot of people know him. Or we know Max Altschuler. And we both know Manny, the CEO of Outreach. Okay, great. That's good. But it doesn't make you take the meeting. But if I go in to your book, flip the script, and on page 210, I pull out an insight. First of all, you're like, okay, he actually read my book. He's pulling the quote. You might still be skeptical, but if I go in and I hyper personalize and I try a little more, like we could program a machine to read your book and pull out nuggets. We could do it, but it's not going to happen, you know? And if it's like, there's an emotion to it. There's a flavor to it. There's a sterility to pure AI where you can tell that they didn't really research you. So to your point, if you hyper personalize and then use this tech stack to amplify that signal, it's extremely powerful. You're not fooling the prospect. You're giving them a quality experience at scale that's a lot better than the 999 people that just sent them the, you know, bullet point email or the HubSpot template, or, you know, we all get these like, number one, a crocodile ate you. Number two, an arm more fell on you. Number three, pound sand. You know, you get these crazy emails like from 2012. It's not modern and it's not funny and it doesn't work, but it's everywhere.
So I think we're coming at this from different worlds. The world, you know, that I live in, unfortunately, is, you know, we can create a pitch deck or a pitch or an email message that we blast out to, I would say, around 7 to 12 people, right? So because we're trying to get into a private equity group, or we're trying to get into a CEO of a highly verticalized industry with a very specific deal to plug in. And so the visualization that I always use for our business, I want to get back around to you. So we're not doing it at scale, right? What we're trying to do is we're trying to dock the Russian space station and the American space station. And if one thing is off, it just a clang, and then they spin off into space, and we've destroyed both. So the docking mechanism, we put a huge amount of thought into. How will the CEO of a $500 million company open this email and go, the stakes are high. I have to look at this. It's easy to respond. I can't ignore this because it's just going to come around through some other channel. This has to be paid attention to by me. Those are my goals, right? Because I don't have the scale that you have. Not to insult and not, you know, not to, but I can't, you know, A, B, C, D, E, F, G test that email, right? Because on my A test, there's only 7 guys. So absolute certainty is where we have to be for outreach, because we can't blow. But we do find those same skills about how to raise the stakes, make it relevant, make it unignorable, and communicate that this is not going away, right? It's just going to pop up through some other channel. If it's ignored, they have to flag it. Even, you know, CEO of a you know, a company with 2,000 people in it. But those same techniques work even better when you do get to go out for scale. So maybe we could just slow down a bit and say, before we get into content, what are the baseline technologies today that do allow you that a average person with average intelligence working at an average speed could use today to do multi-channel messaging?
Yeah. So first, the big companies like SalesLoft and Outreach have semi-automated modes where you pull out the C levels and you would take the Oren Klaff approach of a very deep dive and, 4 hours to sharpen the axe, then hit the tree.
Yeah.
I would not send the chief marketing officer of Verizon an automated email ever, even if I could fool them, because it's too much writing. You need like, I read a lot of your blogs. You need to go deep. You need to get into psychology, the research, everything. You got to stand way out. Even send a FedEx for $35 to make sure they sign and read that thing, and then the stakes are everything. I have a unique position because about 5-6 years ago, I was part of a company called Outbound Works, and we spent a few $1 million on this stuff really quickly. And we scaled to a $10 million run rate. It was a lot of fun. We did 100 startups at once. And I sent millions and millions of emails, and I tested tech stacks, and I had 17 engineers, and we built all this space age stuff. We tried everything. For the lay people, the average seller, I hate this word average, but
can you unpack that a little bit? Like,
sure,
how fast you can get yourself in trouble, right? By looking at a couple of tools and going, oh my God, this amazing world of building an outbound tech stack, automated. Like, how many people, how much budget, how much intelligence would you just stumble into that world and say, I'm going to be able to do this? Should you set your expectations?
Yeah. So only 15% of high growth companies even automate. Here's the perfect umbrella statement. If you send your emails one at a time in 2020, or you dial a telephone one at a time, it is dark ages. So anyone hearing this, if you're doing that, a competitor is eating your lunch right now. The baseline technology is we do not live in an environment where you have to, individually do this stuff. It's all automatable and with very high degrees of personalization. Getting into trouble with it is buying it, and you buy Outreach and you go, great, I'm gonna send 1,000 emails, and Gmail says 150 cap, boom, your domain shut off. So if you go too fast, so it's actually an extreme amount of prep and onboarding. It takes me 2 weeks to set up one of these campaigns. It's brutal. Yeah. It's like 25, 25, 50, 50. I'm testing the wall like a painter. I'm like, white paint on the wall. Oops, it's blue. Okay, let's try that again. It's right. It's like Formula One. You got to test these engines all year. Now we're on the track. Now we're testing the track. So there's so much that goes in behind the scenes. People ask me, well, Justin, it took you 8 hours to set up that personalization at scale sequence. Why is it worth it? Because now that I've set it up, I can send thousands, and it's perfect one-to-one. It took 8 hours, and I just saved 50 hours. So there's more upfront cutting.
Yeah. Here's a way I think about it. I just want to break it down for my dinosaur brain, but here's the way I think about it. Like, how many friends do you have that day trade today? Oh, really? None. Why? Because the computer's day trade. There's no way that you can. There's no way that you can make a judgment call, find some alpha, chase that alpha with your $9, right? that the 27 PhD, MIT graduates at a hedge fund aren't programming, and we've worked on some of these deals. A supercomputer with a tech stack to chase down that one trade. About 7 seconds before you decide to commit to it. So day trading today is not a thing because the computer is doing. Whoa, that was my drink. Okay, now I'm gonna be thirsty. The whole rest of this podcast.
We're the same person. The coffee was invented so I could blow it up on myself, because I always spill my coffee in my car, on a couch, on a bedspread. It's hilarious. I don't drink much coffee. I just spill it for a living.
The main tech stack in our podcast are the laptops that I spill coffee on.
I've blown several laptops with Starbucks.
So I think 100%, if you find yourself picking up the phone or sending up an email, hey, this is Jim. Realize that you guys, saw an article on you, and that you guys are starting to expand into our area. We'd love to show you how our insurance program could improve, your return on invested capital by 3%. Maybe in the next couple of weeks, we could set up a phone call and just, right. If you find yourself writing that and hitting send, I think the equivalency is you trying to day trade against the 37 PhD astrophysicists in the basement of Goldman Sachs, and they're laughing at you, right? So there's a Justin out there at your competitor or within the competitive set that, in their mind's eye is watching you write that email or pick up that phone call and leave a message, and it's like a Saturday Night Live skit to them. You doing your day job for someone else is a Saturday Night Live skit, and they're laughing.
It's really interesting because to study the future, we study the past. And the office of the CMO, Chief Market. So we all know the term growth hacking. We all remember the SEO revolution. So, you're Oren Klaff. So you're on the front page of Google because you're Oren Klaff. You sold millions of books. I have not. That's very hard to do. But for a while, there was an obsession with how do I get on the front of Google and how do I growth hack? And it was this big thing. And nobody really talks about it now because everyone figured it out. Right? But sales has not figured out how to use tech stacks. Sales we're going to specialize and we're going to have automation, artificial intelligence. And then the CMO's we did that 10 years ago, so sales is just catching up because as far as the P&L, the CEOs always looked at the sales team like they're expensive. We got to fly them everywhere. Where's the revenue? And they haven't wanted to invest. But the truth is, in these high growth companies, $2,000 per rep per month on sales tech stacks, some up to $5,000. When you get things like Connect and Sell, like these parallel assisted dialers that dial the phone 4 to 10 times, when you have VA operations where they're grooming and enriching the data offshore, all that means is they're making sure your emails and calls work or pre-calling them. So imagine if you could call a list that's pre-vetted, targeted, pre-called, and with intent. Right people, working number, and working email. Sounds like the holy grail. You can do it. It's expensive. But imagine if your competitor in the insurance business has leads that already showed intent to buy and working cell phones. That's cutting like a hot knife versus calling switchboards and...
So, 1,000,000% agreement. So there's two sides of this. One is the tech stack, right? And the second is the messaging that you feed into. So the tech stack... So why don't we do this? Why don't we have I have a barbecue grill company that sells NFTs of grilling. So
that's hilarious.
I have a barbecue grill awesome.com, and what we do is we sell barbecue grills, but we sell NFTs of people grilling the most highly rated steaks in the world. Right. And you can buy, the Japanese Wagyu #1 2021 winner of highest quality steak, and that steak sold for $35,000 for 4 ounces. You can buy the NFT of that piece of steak being grilled. Okay.
Okay.
That's our company. Let's build quickly the tech stack for the outreach for buyers of, let's just say a $35,000 barbecue grill setup, including 1 free NFT. And so let's build the tech stack, but then let's talk about the messaging that has to go in that tech stack. Where would we start in your mind?
That's where my book came from. So my book originally was called TQ because I realized that EQ and IQ, there's got to be this AQ, adaptability quotient or technology quotient. Whether you fly a 747, a 767, race a car, paddle shifters, it's a human and a machine. There's a human machine UI UX interface, and it's hard. If I write a book about tech stacks and you ask that question is unanswerable in 5 years, 10 years with the singularity. What I realized that the modern seller of today does not just have a phone and yellow pad. I'm a bit old school. I'm 41. I've been doing this 20 years. So I still use these nostalgically. It's like a vinyl record. The modern seller.
You're 41. You're 41.
Yes.
Daniel, what the hell you put me on a podcast with a 41-year-old? What is he going to know? I need these 22-year-olds, right?
I know, right? Well, I've been doing it for 20 years. And the thing is, I was early on UX UI because I came from the recording business. So I used to use Pro Tools and Logic. And believe it or not, recording music is nearly impossible in the late 90s. It was very hard just to mic all this stuff up. And yeah, I have Gen Z people. My book was, I had a technical engineer read the whole book to make sure it could be done. So I realized that the tech stack is LinkedIn. You're sitting on LinkedIn looking for the people. Then you need the data because LinkedIn won't give you the emails and phone numbers. Then you can't sit there and one at a time email. So that's why outreach and sales off are big. Now in the pandemic, you're remote. So someone must be able to listen to your calls. So you have Gong, of course. Yesterday, Zoom Info, which is the second tech stack, bought Chorus, which was the fourth tech stack. So I have this core essential stack. So sales, at least 7 million people that sell software, is that core stack. It's not a phone. And that's what led to the book and this whole revenue operations revolution. So if you're doing the barbecue NFT and the tech stack, what is the messaging?
Well, let's nail down the tech stack.
Okay, sure.
Okay. So go through the outreach.
So we have sales navigators. We have LinkedIn, but the business version of LinkedIn, Sales Navigator. It's like $100 a month, like a cell phone, maybe 80. That's going to give you self-healing CRM, where you raise your hand and say what company's that.
Yeah.
It's really amazing, the economic graph, but they do not let you have emails and phones at scale. So Zoom Info, the data layer, and there's so many great platforms that do this. You pay another fee so I can get your cell and your direct email. The third is I now need to automate. I need to make calls and I need to do emails because now I have the ability to do it, but I would rather be able to do 150 emails a day or 300 emails a day than only get 50 done. Because I'm a full cycle seller. I've got my mid funnel and my down funnel. Now I'm remote. I'm not in my office. So how is my boss going to figure out what I'm doing? We record all the calls with Gong and Chorus and run AI and benchmark, listen to talk ratio and all that good stuff. So that became the essential stack. Those 4 components. And that's the revolution that I talk about in my book because I can't find anyone selling that doesn't have that stack.
So I love it that we slowed you down enough to hit that because when we just let you go at your natural pace, it's like talking to Marshawn Lynch. Marshawn, so it's Marshawn, in a game in the, Finals Super Bowl, when you scored the game-winning touchdown, can you tell us about the strategy that you used? Run through a motherfucker face. Well, what was behind the thinking, when you receive the ball and you're looking down the field and you see 11, players facing you and you have to sort of figure out how to, what goes through your mind, run through a motherfucker face.
Just do it. How do I explain it?
Right.
Well, that was the difficulty of the book too, is I really wanted to show people, my 70-year-old mom has a tech stack because she's got Gmail, she's got, Zoom, she's got Facebook, Instagram, she's got a better phone than me. She's like a better iPhone, but she's 70. So I realized, I call it MacGyver tech stack or MacGyvering your tech stack. And then I call them Frankenstack because LinkedIn has a closed API. What I mean by that is LinkedIn won't integrate with anyone. And that's been the biggest thing that's broken the ability to really create these harmonic stacks, because imagine having like a race car, but the pistons can't talk to the computer. It'd be like, that's difficult. So we have this problem. It's similar to what Apple set up, the walled garden issue, is certain vendors are walled gardens and certain vendors are open source. And so these sales ops leads, these rev op leads, they're like Jedi, wizard, tech engineers. They come in and they have to glue it all together to get the data out of it and get the reporting layer. So that's the base stack. The messaging you asked me about, I want to get into that. It has to be differentiated.
Get into messaging, because that's where I spend my whole life thinking about what messaging is going to move the reader or the receiver off of the status quo, which is ignore, or save for later, which is also ignore. And so I have very, firm thoughts on this that I'm committed to, but so I want to compare and contrast. Well, actually, I just want to prove that I'm right, but I call it compare and contrast. No, so an email comes in, right? And so let's break down the components of an email.
Okay.
Right? Because I think a sales guy, I'm sending somebody an email. Okay, well, hold on. There's multiple components. There's a subject line. There's a time of day delivery. There's name, no name. There is the first line. There's the length. There's the setup. The intrigue, the reveal, the call to action, the credentials, the source of the email. So when I look at an email and there's layers in an email, I call it the layer cake. So there's layers in an email. There is also a lot of variables that come in with an email that trigger different routes in the human mind of how to process that email. So I'd be interested to hear, you're thinking of like, what are the components of an email that are even variables that you have options to even tweak and tune.
Yeah. So I'm going to quote Oren Klaff and say, don't trigger the croc brain. And what I mean by that is I was the first person in 20 years of software as a service to say, your email should look like a text message. And here's my big tombstone realization. Email is visual.
Yeah.
Words are pictograms, comes from cave painting. Your brain struggles to read them. My 6-year-old daughter struggles to read them. And late at night when we're tired and we're reading a book, like maybe Dune, can't wait for the new movie, we get tired and our eyes start getting bleary. But we can go in a car and we can see the sky, the earth, the cosmos, and it's fine. Because what's happening, so you're sending someone that's going to trigger their fight or flight. These marketing emails, these long expository emails, and look at the F curve. Look at how they're shaping the F. They're going, should I delete it? Is it safe? Is it from the IRS? Why is it long? You're actually triggering an executive in a really negative way when you send that 13-second to process email. So if you can first get the mail delivered, we can talk all about deliverability and sender score. But let's just say I have managed to get an email to Oren Klaff's and he opens it. I get 18 characters between the subject line and the preview text. That's it. So the vast majority of all business emails says, hope you're doing well. And so 99% of business email is just a waste. Would you ever put an ad on the internet that says, hope you're doing well on the side of Facebook? No, you have to hit it like a journalist.
So I want to drop back. You go too fast, right?
I know.
It's just you have a very smart, audience. My audience needs this to go a little bit slower.
I'm sorry, I got excited. I don't get to talk to Oren Klaff's every day, but someday maybe.
So the Neanderthals that I come with, including myself, need to unpack this stuff more slowly. No, I don't think it's that at all. I think that the folks that I'm dragging in want to take this hour that they've invested in you and I and go execute.
Oh, right? Yeah, utility.
So when that just tends to be like the guys in my cohort are working on a deal, are working on a sale, are working on a program. They're on sort of the philosophy, the Stoic philosophy of how to be business. Work in the business, not on the business. Great motherfucker. Now what do I do? Okay, so we're sort of out of philosophy and actually wanting to do stuff.
I can slow it down. Yeah.
So no, but here's the way I look. Like, I feel like the person who figured this out was the New York Times in 1893.
Exactly.
So to me, this looks like something that I know how much time to invest in and get information out of. So if you look at the New York Times, big headline, right? So U.S. pulls out of Afghanistan. Subhead. Okay, just by the existence of the subhead, if that's enough for me, right? Then that's all I need. I've got the big headline. The subhead is, but we'll stay involved, with air combat and continue to reach, our security goals. Then there's a subhead, right, which starts to mention some of the people involved, and then I've got copy. So this just looks like something that I know how to get information out of. And so to your point, to me, an email should look like, it should pattern match to something that one of my partners would send me and that would give me some information and ask me to make a decision about what to do next. So it's a visual pattern match to something I get from people I work with day to day. Agree or disagree?
Yeah, so I love how you break that down, because I have this whole theory called journalism. I remember it was like the one class I took in high school, because I was just I left school at 15 and tested out. My guidance counselor like, you're not going to amount to anything. So I probably did get turned down by Salesforce and LinkedIn 200 times, but I ended up working for both of them, because sales, they're not looking at your MBA. They're like, what if you sold? And I had the references and I finally got there. And it took me till I was early 30s to get to those style of companies. And I, killed myself in incubators for the first 10 years. And I was more than no one. Sell anything, sold shoes, sold, widgets, actual widgets. But to your point, think like a journalist. So when it comes to fundraising, and I love this about your work, it's like the purpose of the headline is the first sentence. The first sentence, the second is to get to the call to action. And when I do A/B testing, I'm testing subject lines and the first line and then different calls to action. I'm using a sequencer to run that. So here's 100 people getting the first subject line. Here's 100 getting the second. Well, how many replies did it get? Was it negative, positive? And running them through. And it's, what's interesting now about CNN.com and the MarTech on there is CNN.com, go load it multiple times, everything on the front page of CNN.com is an A/B test. It's all rotating. You know how it has little cliffhangers? It's like, this celebrity just got caught. But it's like, just tell me, is it Alec Baldwin again? Like, click, and you have to go in. It's like clickbaity. But it's actually good with email to not give it all away and to create the intrigue and to pull them in. I've listened to a lot of your work, and I know you believe in this stuff.
100%. Wait, this is, if you come here or we spend time with you, what the number one thing that will sort of pick on somebody for or criticize is you're starting with the reveal. There's no setup, there's no intrigue, and so you don't have the benefit of the reveal. So to your point, celebrity gets in trouble for the third time in 1 month, you won't believe who it is, right? That they tested at scale, but that's going to have a higher click rate than, Alec Baldwin gets a parking ticket. All right. So now, this is a different subject, which we'll get to later. Well, unless this goes on for 4 hours, I know we have a time limit, but the intrigue hook can't be significant. What makes your emails clickbait is the intrigue hook is way higher in intrigue than the actual content reveal.
Boom.
That will hose you over. But
value payload.
But I think for me, as listening to you, I hear you starting to break down the components of an email, right? Mm-hmm. The subject line, the intrigue hook, the opener, the meat, the call to action. Bam. So what do you call these elements? So you've got the A/B test in the subject line, then you've got the hook.
I created my own method, and because of how funny it is, I've actually met Alan Parsons from the Alan Parsons Project. I'm from the music business, so I met Eric Clapton. So Alan Parsons is in, Dr. Evil. He goes, we're going to call it the Alan Parsons Project. So I call my method the Justin Michael method to make fun of myself as a dark guru. So
by the way, sorry, no one's going to appreciate this, but do you know the band Ugly Kid Joe? Yep,
they're actually one of the only bands that got famous from Santa Barbara.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So there's a band. I love the origination story because it's the same of Ugly Kid Joe, right? So they were opening for, do you know the story?
I don't know the story. No.
Oh, yeah.
So they were opening,
they were the opening act for Pretty Boy Floyd. Okay.
No way.
And they got in a fight. They were called something else, the Light Post Project or whatever. Santa Barbara, the Wave Sisters, whatever they were called. And so they got in a fight with Pretty Boy Floyd just before opening with them. So they announced their name change to Ugly Kid Joe as they were opening for Pretty Boy Floyd. So yeah, naming yourself after other bands is a real thing.
Yeah, it's so funny. The only other there's Toad the Wet Sprocket came out here, and the other really famous band was called Snot. You can imagine it was a heavy metal band. It's just funny. It's a little town.
Well, I don't go to Santa Barbara.
Yeah, don't write a book. And but if you come here, it's this. I always say I'm living the life of a Don Henley lyric, because you can check out every time. You can check out anytime, but you can never leave. Don Henley also said, "Kill all the lawyers," which he's actually quoting Shakespeare. Those are my two favorite Don Henley quotes. Going back into cold email, though, and the components, I call them spears. Basically, I'm trying to do visual prospecting. Yeah. I want emails to look like text messages. I want emails to deliver product marketing visuals. So I use these Venn diagrams, and I know that's in your work too. And I have a lot of respect for you and Daniel Berger. And we have a channel in a Discord. I have a club called Salesborgs. It's in a Discord server. Imagine if Slack and Zoom had a baby. They've raised $100 million. It's for gaming. We're all gaming together in a server. Well, we use it to tear down email. Awesome. And so we test these methods. And so everyone just starts to make these visual diagrams. And you can send it and it can be wrong. And you send it in the second or third email, and you send a Venn diagram and say, what do you think of this diagram? Well, the diagram is processed 60,000 times faster than words, 90% of what we retain. So I'm kind of this armchair neuroscientist, right? It is kind of Neanderthal-esque, because I'm not studying rats or Schrodinger's cat or, one of these studies there's no knife in the room, but there's a puddle on the floor, but they're dead, but there's no window. These crazy interview for Google word problems. Yeah. It's not like that. It's more like, okay, how does your brain want to work? What I found is email is visual, and I found that phone is about power. 90% of people think it's about tone, but phone is actually about power transfers. It's about something called polarity shifts. So if I was on a tombstone and said, what is the Justin Michael method? It's email is visual, phone is power dynamics. And that's what I figured out.
So let's go back to the barbecue NFT company and let's get a subject. So we agree that the email coming in is first processed visually, and we have to pattern match it to the kinds of emails that we think need to get processed and responded to. So in your world, what's the subject line?
The one that worked for me the best is 1 to 3 words. I use the subject line growth, lowercase. There's growth marketing, growth hacking. I was in mobile advertising for 15 years, and there's even a conference called grow.co. And I can't think of anyone who doesn't want to grow. So I use the subject line growth, and it tends to get a very high response. But yeah.
So I'll tell you, the problem is, I think telling people what works, then everybody starts doing it and then it will stop working.
I factor for that. I'll tell you how.
But I also, I also don't think, our reach is strong enough. But here is from, I would say maybe 150 million emails. What we found with my group is the number one pull is their on a cold is their name in lowercase.
Yeah. Their name is strong.
Just so that, that to me, that could be your mom. That pattern matches to somebody who no business sends you lowercase subject lines with your name. Today.
Yeah. Aaron Ross used to write all the time in lowercase without punctuation. That's a good pattern interrupt. So I go through all the pattern interrupt. So what I realized by releasing templates to the industry is there's a guy named Kreuzberger. It's called the Kreuzberger problem. He released a template called appropriate person with a waterfall effect. And, I'd said it to Oren and then to Daniel and everyone in the organization and mentioned all the people. You get all confused. I confuse you. Well, everyone started to do it. And so I used to check my CEO's inbox and they had appropriate person. So what I came up with is this thing called, this is a really crazy word, but I'm going to use it and tell everyone what it is. It's called heuristics. It's from engineering, but think of it like meta. Just think of it like, here is the email template, and here's what it means. So if I'm going to use a humorous statement, hey, Oren, I hate sequencing to you. It's like a humorous fourth wall statement. Or if I use social proof, I say, I work with top authors to get them on page 1 of Google. Now I'm using a heuristic of social proof. So my brother's an engineer. What I decided to do is say, well, copy my templates at your peril. Because once the Justin Michael method's out there with the book, similar to how Aaron Ross and Predictable Revenue, actually, did I catch you at a bad time? Is because Aaron said to do that, and it's become so stale, it's dangerous to use because it's expected. So what I want people to do is look at the meta frameworks. This is so similar to what I see you teaching in your courses is think about the meaning of this messaging, the architecture, and why you're using it, and then make it your own. So you build a hook, and you build a social proof, and you build a CTA that's going to work. And if you love this one from this template, don't copy it, do it. So instead of appropriate person, I could say who heads up or in charge, or I could use any synonym to still run the template, but cloak it.
Yeah. So subject line, I would say, for the cold on our barbecue NFT company, I would just name John, Michael, Prajesh, Chang, Susan, Amir, whatever. And then opening hook. But you wouldn't do that. You would say, what would your A/B test be on this cold email?
So I might do growth plus Oren. So plus adding the name and using a plus sign.
I know, but see, I'm trying to take you out of what you know, right? And apply your technology into a different area. But so people buying barbecue grills, that's why I want to do an actual use case.
Yeah.
People buying barbecue grills aren't thinking about growth.
That's true. I primarily work in B2B and a highly with SaaS and services business. It's funny because there's this other trainer who's really well known, Josh Braun, and he always breaks it down to rain gutters and barbecue mitts and barbecues and grills and bikes. And I feel so disassociated to that because I sell, conceptual complex software, which is also another niche. So it probably limits my reach. But so the barbecue grill, there might be some differentiated element about it, like an outcome, because I really believe in sales. There's only 4 things you can ever do: make money, save money, reduce risk, or satisfy regulation. But I also find that pain, fear triggers and innuendo are really powerful. So a lot of what I'm doing, I don't know if it's a word like psychosociologically, wow, that was a lot of syllables, is I'm trying to trigger you.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get you moved from something that's painful. So I'd be like, I don't know what I can do with a grill. Like, is it rusty? Did it blow up? Is there bad warranty? Are you getting, ripped off somehow? Are you spending like a printer cartridge? Are you spending all your money on printer cartridges? You're spending all your money on charcoal or on gas to flame it? Is it more efficient somehow?
I think you're just looking, to your point, for a pattern interrupt. I would just do lowercase this grill.
Okay.
Right. And then some kind of weird something, right? This grill. And so now we've got an email in, it's in lowercase, it gets clicked on.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So then what are your thoughts on the hook? Right. So first.
So my first line is very interesting, because what I found, at least with what I'm selling, is I tell the prospect that it's relevant to them. This is a very weird thing I found, because when we're sending all these videos from Vidyard, no one watched the videos. So almost like cats watching tennis, we'd say, hey, can you watch the video? So we didn't ask for the meeting, didn't ask about the we just oriented the video. So I'll say, hey, Oren, I have a product that's very relevant to you. Can I share it? It's weird. So I'm telling you that this is relevant to you. Yeah. And then I'm asking you for almost an opt-in hook. So the hook isn't that hooky. It's more that I'm trying to get you into agreement that it's somehow relevant. Like, I read your LinkedIn profile and I have a product that's relevant to you. Can I ask you? And I do this tap out thing where I slightly ask when I'm not going to ask. This came from Lee Bartlett, from the #1 bestseller. He's in the UK. He's a fly fisherman. I like this one. It's unassuming and it tends to lead people in like, okay, it's relevant to me. They almost get combative and then they want to prove why it is or isn't. So they keep reading. That front hook for me always works for software. What do you think? What do you do? So
I try and think in terms of a setup, right? Okay. So if you think of, I lived in Hollywood, and so I think in terms of narrative arcs, and if you think of comedians, the joke format is setup, intrigue, and then reversal, or reveal of the. So I try and think of like what is going to set them up. But I think the most important thing for me, Justin, is raising the stakes in that first line. Yeah. Right. Is raising the emotional or the business or the opportunity or the the sense that a decision is coming. You're going to get some information and a decision is coming, right? And you're on the spot. But this is not information. Stakes are up and you are coming to a fork in the road, right? And when you come to the fork in the road, right, now I don't have a call to action. I'm just forcing you. I'm forcing you, down the road, and I'm projecting a fork in the road and I'm pushing you into it and you have to choose left or right.
Right.
So I'm trying to set up that scenario where they know there's a fork in the road. Yogi Berra, that's where I got it from. When you come to a fork in the road, take it. and right.
Yeah, I love Yogi Berra. I quote him a lot.
So I'm trying to raise the stakes.
Yep.
And so now we're trying to make it relevant. This is not a robot, and so it would just be saw your profile, right? I know you're in. I know the highest of the high end grills or something you keep an eye on. We've got an allocation. We've got an allocation of, Nikamuchi, meat and grill coming up. Then I would just finish that email, question mark.
Yeah.
Your move. Right. So that is a setup, intrigue, call to action for a fork in the road.
I love how concise it is. Yeah.
If you break it down by a character count or a word count, that thing probably taps out at 35 words.
So we're the same as trying to reduce it. I say when it's at a length where you're scared to send it, where it would offend your CMO or your marketing team wouldn't let you, that's when you send it. You have to be like afraid. It's so short. For me, because so I love it. Some of the products that I coach people on are transactional, meaning you could one call close it. It's under $25,000. It's something that it's low friction. It's like, like Zoom, it's $10 a month, $20 a month. Let's sign up. Still got to sell it. So for those, I use social proof early. So I unpack it quickly. So sometimes I say, I kill the opener I have, and I just go, based on your similarity to our client that's very similar to you, we could probably help you do this. And so I have this thing called the BS test where I go in as a skeptical executive and I send an email to myself. So let me break down these bad emails. So I get this email that says 200% ROI. Okay, nothing is round ROI, so that's fake. That's a false claim. 212%, 213%, that's interesting. So now it's like social proof. Okay, we did this for Adobe. Yeah, but they're Adobe. It's like everything works for Adobe. I'm just bait and tackle shop. I'm just a grill place. So it's if you use social proof on the hook, like based on how we're helping Acme Corp do X, we probably could be doing a lot for you. Let's talk about the why and the how. So there's a cliffhanger where I hold back, like don't spill the candy, Sandler theory, like right there. Another thing I'm using is specificity. So I want to know a specific similar customer and then a specific amount of make money, save money, reduce risk. And then I need a specific technical differentiation because otherwise it's just BS. Hey, I help authors get on the front page of Google. They usually get, 2x the traffic. Sounds like every SEO pitch. Well, it's because I developed a proprietary algorithm that, has a patent at MIT. Okay, now that's interesting. So like for me to get hooked, I need social proof, specificity. I'm not pushing on a rope. And then I have to see myself in the case study. Although there was one use case when I used to do this email where my clients were literally Starbucks, Amazon, and Uber. So I would contact mobile companies and say, I do this for Starbucks, Amazon, and Uber. Do you want to learn how? And boom, they just took meetings. Because even though they weren't that big, everyone wants to know why people go into Starbucks, open their app, and use it as money. And very few brands in the world can get that kind of loyalty going. So to start to do this with barbecues, maybe I could preface the bad barbecue they have or use an image of a barbecue blowing up or something painful. The last piece in my system is called emotional resonance. And I call this the Paul Ryan P90X. It's so funny. Like we all know that Paul Ryan was the Speaker of the House and he was big on P90X. It's kind of weird. But what did Paul Ryan look like before he got the P90X? So I like most of the emails is the result. I mean, I don't know. Was he like really out of shape and dejected and he wasn't, he has no vigor, but nobody asks. So the problem is if I send you this email of this better state, I've never highlighted the before picture. So what I love to show is, and I use innuendo. It's like a movie theater. You're sitting and they're flashing popcorn at me and I just get, transported to 12 and I suddenly am craving Sour Patch Kids. I'm like, what's happening? I don't want to eat Sour Patch Kids. It's poison, but I'm dying for it because I'm being hit subliminally. So what I do, I use that in email. So I do trigger words. I go, they were tearing their hair out. They're frustrated. It was painful. They were hemorrhaging money. And then we put in the solution that automated their files. So I actually pepper in pain words and fear words subliminally to get it to convert. Because when I got the text messages, I got the open rates to 60%. But then I couldn't get the conversion rates. So I just had to do that kind of before, after. I know I'm blasting a lot at you quickly, but I'm so curious. It's not a barbecue.
But if I jump up a level, I mean, one thing that I just want to highlight is how much, we're talking, so we started talking about a multi-channel, multi-exposure tech stack. We sort of went through that, right? Now we've been talking 30 minutes on one piece of that tech stack. So I'm not suggesting that you put this much effort or geek out to this level on the psychology and the technology and the tech stack. I'm not suggesting you do that. It might not be your thing, but I can tell you there are people in your business who are doing this amount of work. The people that come to us and they're 75% of the way through, maybe they don't have the messaging and the final piece of the tech stack done. They are obsessing on these elements. The reason they come to us is because they're obsessing so much they've just gotten stuck and they need to break through. So sometimes, and this is pretty cool. If I have to send a longer email, and you could try this, I will send the entire email in the subject line. I'm kind of known for that.
That's crazy. I've never heard that.
I'll send a 200-word email in the subject line.
That's genius.
And their response rate is 175%. Why is it so high? Because they'll send it to other people and go, look at this shit.
That's genius.
I just sent me an entire email with information, data on us, and call to action and contact information in the subject line. So there'll be a more than 100% response rate to that.
Well, this is what I call Tiger Woods theory. Okay, Tiger, give me your exact clothes and your exact golf clubs. I'll put me on the course. Okay. I get worse. I slice harder and faster into the trees.
Yeah.
And I sweat more because I'm not a pro golfer. So what we're talking about is the bullets in the weapon. If I'm firing blanks, who cares if I have a howitzer? So, garbage in, garbage out. If you don't master the psychology, neuroscience, persuasion, game theory, if you don't go in and think about the human brain. Now, my first version of the book was going to be 1910 because the human brain in 1910 and 2010 is the same. There's a guy named Todd Capone, who's my trainer at Salesforce. He's a sales historian. He's found out that most of the systems in sales today are from 1890. It's just what you said, because the human mind isn't any different. So if you don't figure out the triggers and the copywriting piece, and what's really crazy is the prevailing systems in sales are marketing copywriting, and they're not sort of the tactical groundwork that great sellers figure out. Executives, C-level executives, they write in short form for considered purchases. I remember I sent a CEO this super long email and he goes, rad, at like 10 p.m. I don't know where he was, probably wrote it with one hand, rad.
Yeah.
But here's the thing though, deeper into the sales cycle, you really do need to learn to write. I wrote a 270-page book with Tony Hughes. I will do a 3,000 word email. So I did a $600K deal, 236 emails on the thread, many of the emails over 2,000 words. And my CEO is looking at me like, what are you doing? You're writing the great American novel, because this is a very smart person on that end trying to consider a very elaborate set of technology. And by the time I captivated their attention, I've piqued the interest, set the hook, and I've got them. Now they need meat on the bones. Like if for any of you have leased a luxury car, it's pretty funny. I went to lease this pretty nice BMW in San Francisco. I was like, oh, your boss comes here. I was working for Salesforce, so hilarious. I won't say who that is, but they showed me on a piece of paper 12 pages from ceiling to floor. I had to initial my name for this car 62 times. And then they gave me a thumb drive of all the confirmation commitments I made. So I took this in enterprise sales, and I was, it's not long enough. It's not, let's make it look like that BMW lease. Oh, $500K? You want to do $1 million deal? We need a 12-page proposal. And it just thickets of information, the Raj from John, because then they feel like, damn, we're getting all this. But I'm getting off the field. I don't want people to think that the solution for fundraising or getting meetings is short form, but it certainly is for the very top of the funnel, I've found. And if you're going to automate.
Yeah. And so in your mind is that, so the sales stack, the messaging for the top of the funnel. Let's just talk about touches, because I know you have very well developed thoughts on number of touches and angle of touches.
Yeah.
And I think we can wrap up talking really about escalation what I find is it's very easy to show someone how to open a pitch, right, in a meeting, right? And that is basically to say, oh, hey, thanks, guys. Thanks for coming for the 10:03 meeting. You want me to catch you up on the 10 o'clock meeting? Right? So that's the opening, and it works 100% of the time. I mean, the more higher status the people in the room are, the better it is, because those guys know the value of time. And then you start with the big idea. Hey, look, everything's changing. Meteors are coming towards the Earth. It's going to create a nuclear winter. If you don't build warm underground bunkers, when the nuclear winter hits, you're going to freeze to death. All right. So basically, the first people to figure this out were the billionaires. Second people to figure this out were the 500 millionaires. The 100 millionaires are building bunkers right now. You're up next. Right. But this is your opening. You can buy building materials, you can buy real estate, and you can buy the people who build bunkers now. But in about 6 months, it's going to skip you and go down to the next level, and you're not going to survive the nuclear winter. So that's the opening, right? That's, and so the openings are easy to show. As you get further into a sale, the sale becomes more nuanced and complex.
True.
Right? It can go more different directions. So I think the best thing we can do here is really help people on top of funnel, but I want to talk a little bit more about escalation and getting down, downstream of it, and then let you go back to your, day job, going down and putting
my day job, trying to catch up to Oren Klaff.
Lowering,
give me 10 years,
lowering canaries into the coal mine. So let's just go back quickly to tech stack. Number of touches in which channels to maximize just getting somebody into that top of funnel response. We're not talking about conversion. We're just talking about getting them from out there in the ether to into the top of the funnel.
Yeah, so I've been nicknamed the machine, the honey badger, and the hummingbird. I've had colleagues who said, Justin, I don't read any of your emails. What I do is I create a folder, and every Friday I look at them. And I was shocked when I finally opened them and read it all. It was all really high quality stuff. Can you do me a favor? Could you once a week give me a digest of the summary of the emails that you send me? Like, I've had insane stuff like this. So I would say that my systems work because they're 10x to 100 times higher activity than you think. So I created these systems that are clusters and bumps, and they're omni-channel. And this is how crazy it is. I call it bee swarming, and it comes out of mobile technology. The first day I contact you, I call you, then I leave a voicemail, then I send an email, then I connect with you on LinkedIn. So I wrote this book called Combo Prospecting. I co-wrote it with Tony Hughes. So call, voicemail, email, LinkedIn, that's a quad. So we have a triple quad. Quint, I hit your Twitter for a like. And so I had 4 or 5 touches, but day 2 bump with the word thoughts, day 3 image bump. So we're now at about 9 to 12 touches. Now, typically it takes 5 to 12 touches over 3 weeks to unlock a meeting. I'm hitting the 9 to 12 delta in the first 2 days, and then I'm using visual cues for the 60,000 times processing. So I have my payload of frequency of messages in 24 hours exceeds the normal payload of a 30-day sequence.
Yeah.
And
so
the person,
by the way, if you don't, a lot of people don't know this, but if you don't answer Justin's, 30-day, 4-week, multi-channel, 19 bump, text, email barrage, he'll just fucking slash your tires. I know you're in there.
I've never had a restraining order, and it's never been a problem, because what it does, because I ran an agency that did this, is the senior executives do this. Hey, I'm good. Remove. Because I thought about my own behavior. If you really badger me, I'll look at it. And if you bug me, but it's value, I'll be like, okay, it's cool. Talk to Cindy. I'm up high enough in the clouds at the C level, at the decision maker, that I'm probably going to get delegated. So I do get a very high level of referrals, but I get a ton of responses, and I work that referral queue. And because I'd say, well, hey, Daniel, Oren sent me to you. Bam, that has clout, and I'm going in rather than just hammering Daniel the whole time.
One thing I'd say on this, and I don't think we can get into it, one of the problems I find that people using this tech stack, using this approach, but a lot of them are dead ends, right? So the call to action is a dead end that if the person doesn't reply, then you have to, did you get my message? Right? Then you have to get really low status messaging to get it reinvigorated. And so what we try and do is leave it open so it's safe to come back around. Right? For sure. So this is really cool. Like, a lot of times, we're very, the guys we're trying to read are very senior. Email is our main channel, but I like this. But a lot of times what we'll do, and this is so cool, we'll have conversations about the target in an email that is not directed at them. We'll just be talking about them.
That's genius. I've never seen that.
Right. It's so, and we'll have these characters within our business, and we sort of build this space opera. Or now they're just paying attention to the emails to see what's happening in this opera about them. And eventually then we'll hit a call to action, and then they're right on it. So you can send an email to somebody that isn't to them, but it's about them.
That's brilliant. That's a totally new thing I've never seen.
It's really fun. It's really fun and cool. And so the way we think about it is status and hierarchy. So if you come in high status, right, you say, hey, look, we're peers. I'm trying to help you with this problem. You have it. I don't.
Yeah.
Right. I've solved this problem all the time. Right. I'm trying to help you. Right. Then they're not responsive. Then what I'll do is push them down to someone lower in the organization. Right. And then we can continue communicating to them. And so that person lower in the organization can now communicate to someone lower in their organization about them. And you're building this whole relationship. Right. And then if that person doesn't communicate, then you can push down to an admin, and just admin to admin, which is Justin and Oren were trying to find a time together. They keep missing. Right. Let's look out into September and really nail something down that works. And there's this whole now your organizations are built to work together. Admins aren't judgmental. Once they believe a task has been set, their goal is to accomplish that task, right? And so when you can push it down, admin to admin or peers, and saying, hey, I'm trying to get this set. You guys seem like you're having trouble setting it, let's just push it out another 3 weeks and nail it down. And now that admin is invigorated to do her job, which is to set a meeting. So there's lots of fun you can have pushing things down the social hierarchy and playing with status. But so now you've got, I'm not sure how I got off on that track, but now either your method or my method or some conjoined method, we've got technology, we've got messaging going out. Someone's responded and they're saying Justin looks interesting, right? Mm-hmm. I'd like to learn more.
Yeah.
What now?
Well, what now is that if you do book meetings, it's funny. I try to work with people all over the world, thousands of reps just to book meetings. And now you have a problem. If you use these technologies, you're having more conversations, you're booking meetings. And now you have better problems. And the next problem is that only 7 in 10 people come to a meeting. So there's tech stacks now for getting the calendar. So there's a thing called Chili Piper. And what it does is you set it once. And if they need to reconfirm, they reschedule. It sends the alerts and UIs and updates, but I go further. So just that you talked about FaceTime drops, I think earlier, which is really savage. Yeah. I wouldn't do it. It's like a base jump. Like imagine if I just showed up on Oren's phone and FaceTime. I don't think you'd like that. But
I don't think you'd like it because I answer it in the shower. But anyway.
That's funny. But I would have to have a really good value proposition. Like I'd have to have a way to make it $1 million.
You call me from an unrecognized number, I swear to God, I'll answer it in the shower. Hey, what's up, motherfucker? What you got? Oh, that's shit. Exactly. Hey, Pradesh. Yeah. Okay.
I would say if it's a weird time of day, if someone like showed up on my phone, like who died, like this better be good. That was so funny. I forgot the question. Tell me one more. What did I just say? Help me.
Just when you think you know the answer, I changed the question.
You totally threw me. I love it. What were you asking again? I'll get you.
So yeah, hey, looks really interesting. Love to learn more.
Yes. So the problem is that what I do is I say, great, we're going to set up some time. And I say, you're probably going to miss this meeting. I know how busy you are. Can I just get your cell phone to send you a reminder the day before and make sure I have the agenda? Sure. Yeah. Boom. Legal cell phone update. Now it's game over. Now I got WhatsApp. Now I got cell phone. I'm opted in. It's the impossible. And once I have that, then it's game over because then I'll just get on a text message and then now I have legal text. I mean, it's 99% open rate. That's how I close all my deals. I use chat platforms. So I use WhatsApp, I use real time, and I dethread. So another big problem is chaining, like break the chain, feel the pain. So now we've sent the proposal and the pitch. There's 6 people on the chain. Well, I don't know that Oren, who's the CEO of the company, is out of town because his sick relative in Sweden or something. And everyone's just sitting there waiting for Oren to respond. These other 5 people have gone mute and I'm checking in. So what I do is I take the chain, I dethread the chain. I have everyone's cell phone and I ping someone. I say, Susan, what did Oren think? What did you think? Oh, Oren's out of town. So then I can tell my CRO, okay, the deal hasn't really stalled. Here's what's going on. But what I'll do is I'll only let people see the open chain for certain reasons. So what I would say is that this is more operational, is try to get into real-time platforms with people, stay professional, but that's the holy grail. Because then,
the one thing I would add, and by the way, I'm learning something that I want to share, I want to wrap up with.
Yeah.
Because I think we're just trying to do a podcast, not a 4-hour, technology
live at
summit.
Budokan. Cheap trick.
Oh, hey, I had a technology summit with Justin. Oh, really? How many people came? Oh no, it was just he and I.
4 hours of insanity.
The one thing I would add, thank you so much. One thing I would add is when you go up into higher stakes executives who sort of are more cognizant, or maybe even people who are in marketing and can see the Frankenstein happening. The one thing I would add to your method is have multiple people on your side. So vice president of marketing talks to vice president of marketing, admins talk to admins, CEOs talk to CEOs. I mean, this was in Flip the Script. I don't want to read you the book, but it is it confuses the social hierarchy when you have Justin talking to an admin, right? And it's going to, because you're the senior guy trying to make a deal happen, right? And you're also your own admin.
Right. Interesting. Yeah. The pairing.
So if you're moving up into a higher stake deal where the stakes are $100,000 or $1 million, right? It is very, very powerful to have a hierarchy on your end that matches theirs. So where I learned this is you cannot do a venture deal where you have the CEO, it causes deals to fall apart. The CEO is responding to their analysts, to their junior analysts, to their senior analysts, to their legal people, to their CFO, and you have the CFO plugging into all of these prongs. It just begs credibility. And every time he's answering questions from the analyst, his status is lowered, because what happens is the venture group says, well, hey, look, this guy responds to our analyst, right? And they just keep pushing all the questions, all the issues to save time down to their most junior person, because it works.
Wow. Yeah, that's really interesting.
So we remove our CEO from any interaction with the venture group, and they have to earn the right to talk to him on substantive issues. So a little bit different space, but I do feel like if there's something you want to try, admins talk to admins, marketing coordinators talk to marketing coordinators. So if you think of COOs talk to COOs, and CEOs talk to CEOs. If you try that, then I think it sort of gives you lots more free space to get control over a higher stakes deal.
Yeah, I love that. We called that the CEO bullet because I guess legend has it.
Wait a second. There's nothing you could say to Justin that he doesn't say. We call this we already have a name for it.
I've read over 200 sales books, and I've trained thousands.
Yeah, what he's doing naturally is maintaining the status position. Like, hey, that's very interesting, Oren. Yeah, we call that the thing.
I have read your book, so it's not fair. So I have read Pitch Anything.
The second thing I learned, or the main thing I learned from all of this, is never let Justin near your girlfriend, like air gap your girlfriend, right? Because he will be on her WhatsApp and and FaceTime and everything like that, and you're absolutely defenseless from losing your beautiful girlfriend. Are you married? Do you have kids? Are you?
I don't want to get into my personal life on this call, so
okay.
I do have a 6-year-old daughter. That is true.
Oh, really?
And and I'm spoken for. But if there's business,
I don't want to get into my personal life on this call. But I've got a beautiful 6-year-old daughter. I'm in a wonderful relationship with a woman. Yeah, I've been together for 10 years. We had our anniversary. Getting together in Hawaii. Would you like to see some pictures?
We can. I'm strictly business. I'm not on Facebook. But yes, I learned a lot there. I have not used the de-adminning or going down to the generals before, but I just wanted to equate that to when I was at LinkedIn, we would save the Jeff Weiner meeting, like the meeting with the CEO, for the very last bit where the CEOs would meet together. It's great advice. I love the way you think. Everything you've come up with, it's like we're like jazz musicians that are, we're both playing free jazz in a similar way. I don't know your area of venture capital. I'm a wobbly deer there, but I do know about B2B SaaS email a ton. That's really been my niche. So I'd love to do this again. It's incredible.
I love what you're doing. Last thing maybe we can end up on is use, because I'm just addressing this on LinkedIn now, and we're putting out an email on it. Use of humor.
Yeah.
Where, when, if, never, always, sometimes, at your discretion, none of the above.
It's my brand. I tend to use. I also I'm like Will Smith. I don't have to cuss in my records, but Gary V does. Tony Robbins now is motivating people by loudly and hoarsely using the F word at them. It seems to be working. I'm not opposed to it. I don't have an issue with it, but I use a lot of appropriate humor. That's like Dilbert. It's like silly. It's like Chevy Chase, and it does backfire, but I don't care, because I'd rather be funny and be myself and be corny and punny, because it's just who I am in business. And so I weaponize the humor. I do it personally, but there is risk, especially if you're working in enterprise. What about you, Oren? Your stuff's hilarious. I read your updates.
Thank you. I think the one thing about humor is I love it. I think it's got to be part of your personality. So there's two things about it. I don't like things that are quips. It's either funny or it's not funny, right? So if it's like a chuckle, I don't like the use of it. But my stuff is very high stakes, and I'm really looking to emotionally motivate someone to a decision tree. And so I like to really, if it's funny, then it's fucking funny, right? But if it's just like Yeah. So one, and the second thing is no jokes. Like you can use humor, you can be funny, you can point out. So humor is a topic for a different day, but humor is truth and pain. That's
right. You know, if you go study the Wayans brothers, they grew up, I think, all in a one-room spot, like 9 of them, and they're all successful. They have brutal childhood, but they're some of the funniest people ever. So from pain comes the hilarity. But yeah, don't tell knock jokes and don't do the crocodile thing, but be witty. Be witty. Yeah. This one I haven't seen though. I haven't made that a policy, but you're right. My stuff is just, it's sort of funny. This rep quit, this big company. He sent the lyrics to Justin Bieber. What do you mean? Just the lyrics. The deal closed. He literally left the company the next day, and it was one of his biggest deals because he let loose and he just did something bold and crazy, and the prospect loved it.
Well, so here's what happens with humor, and we can finish on this. You know, when the dog barks and the phone rings, it's not always the case that the dog barking made the phone ring. So people say, I told this joke and it closed the deal. Oh, how about the financial model and the pitch you gave and the, 17 years of business and the, $770 million in revenue you have at a 10% EBITDA and a 40% growth rate, but, oh yeah, of course it was the joke that closed the deal. So, whenever I hear that, a joke or something funny closed a deal, I always sort of wonder if the dog barking made the phone ring. But I think ultimately most people are not capable of telling a joke in the origination process that would in any way move it forward. I mean, I think I could do it if I have jokes that I've told, to on stage with Tony Robbins to tens of thousands of people that I've seen work in all kinds of languages all over the world. Yeah. Right. And so I feel like I could get a joke to work, but it would take everything I have to pull it together, and to what benefit. So no jokes, but I do love pulling your personality out. Mm-hmm. And if humor is truthfully about truth and pain, it's a way to share some self-deprecating material about yourself. Yeah. And that I think is super helpful. Always make fun of yourself. And I'll say, I find myself funny, but that's problematic and it's ego in a way, because a lot of people have described me as very weird, quirky, and eccentric. That's the word I get a lot. So I think that's because I do go humor forward in just about everything. And it's always witty and sarcastic. So I think a lot of people receive messages from me and just think, is he a cyborg? Like, what is he saying? And I've embraced that as a brand, as a little bit of a zany futurist. And that's cool. I really like Elon Musk's brand, how he's just, what he did with the Cybertruck, where he did he really know the glass was going to break on the truck? Like that to me is masterful showmanship. So if you can get to the Elon Musk Cybertruck glass break with everything we're talking about today, that's sort of the nirvana state. So I kind of have to go, but you're Oren Klaff. So it's like, you're very, I like you a lot. You're a very interesting person. Thank you. Likewise. Your material. The only reason I'm yelling at you is because I feel, limited in your area, and I'm trying to make myself look good as hard as it is compared to your actual talent. So I appreciate you coming here today and sharing. Thanks, like real, meaningful. I think here's the issue. You came here today and shared stuff that you actually get paid for doing. It's true. And you're not. Well, you're not afraid to do that. Like, that's not your job, is to come on this podcast and tell people like your product, what you actually sell. So I appreciate, you doing that and going in deep into it. And you're a very interesting person. Next time we'll have you on to talk 100% about your personal life, because I see that's something. Yeah, you'll find every button. It's all good. We all can be, it's hard to have a private life when you have 40,000 followers on LinkedIn. So these days, it's much easier when you have, 11. I can tell you that. Hey, I don't want to be famous. Did I tell you about my son? What he did yesterday? Anybody? Hello? Is this on? Hello? Yeah. What the fuck is wrong with LinkedIn? Anyway, all right, Justin, I'll talk to you again. Yeah. Thanks for everything. Bye. Thanks, everyone.
Hey, thanks for listening, and be sure to stay tuned for more great content from Oren Klaff. If you want to get daily insights and additional assets, go to orenclaff.com/daily and sign up for a 7-day trial of the Daily Dealmaker. See you next time.